separation, second engine start.
Eco, we have stage separation.
Stage separation confirmed.
And back ignition.
And we have had second engine start as the orange glow appears to brighten up the Merlin vacuum engine in the center of your screen. Again, transitioning the responsibility.
Second engine start.
And we've had second engine start number 2 as that Merlin vacuum engine relights, which is not an easy feat to do out in space, to relight a vacuum engine like that. Now this burn will last.
Good morning, afternoon, evening. Hopefully we're working. A slight delay in the sound. I'd tested everything out, except I hadn't clicked on the audio in the mixer side, so it wasn't being relayed. I wondered why it wasn't going. I changed things a little bit because of the normal intro side of things. I'd got out of date with the link to the where to register, etc. So we thought we'd update it, and I just found a bit of music this morning. So that's just my interpretation at the moment. Best I could do in a short notice. Only knew I was doing it again today, and Gary contacted me this morning. So hopefully all things will go. Right, I've got a few things to say before I forget. Now the VK boys, particularly Rob, VK3IE, who I've been introducing to DATV Red, and that's the network adapter I use. He's interested in what network adapter other people are using. Now that one's a bit dusty, but it's in the garage, and it works well for me. So he's obviously wanting to stream quite high rates. So well, let's see what comes forth there. So any suggestions? This was just to prove that he has started playing with the DATV Red. That was through my SRT repeater this morning. So we normally have a chat a number of mornings during the week, and he winds me up quite considerably. And there was another picture he put through. So he's finally got some signals coming up, but there's some more work to do. For those that don't know, that's my little SRT repeater, which is accessible, etc., on H.264 if one attempts to get into it. I've also got to thank Ohan, who's looking into a slight little problem that we were having with the ATV Red. So I disturbed him and he came back pretty quickly. So when he gets a bit of time, hopefully he'll be able to sort a few things out. Also, what was that? There's right, we go to there. I won't play very much of it, but it's 50 years apparently since the VK boys went over to colour, and this particular video, which I'll just play but it's on YouTube, so you can find it. If you can't, I'll try and dig out the link. Choose etc. So that was sent over to me from Rob. I think it was this morning or yesterday, one of the two. I lose track of the days. Anyway, let's go back to the camera, and let's see who's on. There we go. We've got Leon, Benno, Bert and Ed at the moment on the things. I'll keep it flowing round. Before I forget to you there, Leon, Mike suggested the SA818 module, I think last week, which is they thought might do the trick for what you're doing. It's not exactly the cheapest of modules, but it's used in a number of things, but might be worth. That's an SA818. Click on the wrong thing. It says making mistakes this morning. Obviously too tired. The other thing I will mention is that I use a quad unit on my SRT repeater, and I have found sometimes, not always, that I've got 4 inputs to it with four Raspberry Pis effectively, and it can get confused. I think as they boot up etc., and it can get stuck in a sort of a silly mode where it's sort of pulsing around various different screen formats of the quad, etc. I thought it was a power supply issue, but I don't think it is. I think it's just the actual cheap quad box gets confused. I've found at the moment, if I have it powered off, let everything else sort itself out, then hit it with that, then everything is happy. And the Zoe box, which is how I stream to the BATC and across to the MTX server, that is working a lot better since I updated the firmware. I couldn't keep BATC stream going, but now I've updated to the latest firmware in it. It's much more stable. In fact, it's pretty good. Right, I think that's enough waffle from me. I've made enough mistakes already, so we'll put it over to and you were good pictures, but just cheer up there, Leon. You always don't look happy first. I see you testing. Right, test guy, and it's all yours, Leon, from G8KOE.
Okay, Mike, G8KOE. And the group ZS1 Mike returning. Yes, you know, when I do the testing, I'm normally in a heck of a rush because at that stage, I'm also busy packing the cars for a quick getaway. So it's a rather stressful thing. Today I did it actually a bit more relaxed. It's overcast now. I think we're going to have some thunder and lightning. Anyway, okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody online. And yeah, thanks for that that Mike said. I actually a little earlier today I had a few minutes spare, and I also started surfing the internet for radio chips, and I also found SA818S-CE, and another one which looks very good is, I think they're both Philips, is the SA58646 Bravo Delta, which is also a complete radio thing. I must just see if I'm capable of programming it, you know. But I've got some computer microprocessor type friends who I'm sure will be able to help me with that. Just use a tiny little pick, and I only want one frequency, just 428 megs. Just bzzzt it in there whenever you power it up, and it should be okay. It's got good specs. The 818 is not so hot, but the 58646 is minus 120 dBm input sensitivity. Obviously in narrowband, but you can do with it what you like because both filters are external. The quadrature demod is inside, but I don't think that's too critical. I didn't see. Well, I must download the application notes and the full data sheets. But thanks very much, Mike, if you are watching or listening somewhere. That's the kind of thing I'm after. A good spec radio chip with minimal external components that I can use instead of this microphone receiver thing that I used to use, which is now, it's available but the wrong type. You cannot change the frequency, and they've scratched the numbers off the processor in there, so you don't know where you are. So rather start from the beginning, start from scratch with known components that are available. And yeah, it's very tiny, this stuff, but I'm not scared of that. I've got the equipment to work with that. Otherwise, this last Friday should have been my last day at work, so I'm retired again. But then they came to me and said, oh, please, can you just come Monday, maybe Tuesday as well, because we've got one more test that we want to do and we need you there. So I have to rush off again. So this is my final over for today. I'm not coming back. I have to rush off to be in time with all my stops and things on the way to that place. But hopefully from next week onwards I can chat as long as I want with you guys. Then I'm retired again for at least a couple of months. I will go off air for maybe a week or so, because the builders, when they start, the moment I'm back, they're waiting for me. It would have been on the 1st of March, but now it's not. I have to move my dish, just take it down or move it to another roof temporarily. So I'm just going to disconnect it so that they can replace the roof on that side. Then I'll put it back. So that can take me a week or so to get that back. So if you don't hear me, don't worry. I haven't eloped. I'm just off air for a little while. Maybe I can put the smaller dish with my portable amplifier on a tripod and still be on. We'll see how it goes. But okay, otherwise not much news here. So Benno, I think you're next. PA3 FBX for the group from ZS1MM. Still listening in the background as I'm shutting down the rest of the house.
And no microphone to test it. Well, anyway, I'm there. That was a good start. Well, first of all, I just found out just half an hour before the net, found out that my transmission is not working again. Sorry. Yeah, I have audio and I had music. Yeah, it's now quiet. Thanks, Martin. Your Backtalk channel worked flawlessly. Yeah, hi guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the world, wherever you are, on YouTube or on the Twitch or on the BADC or on wherever we are visible at the moment, or you're there live, as you should be, receiving it directly from the QO-100, which is doing a great job, despite being beside the sun for Europe. The next few days we have some sun interference, where the sun is exactly behind the satellite, which will interfere our reception and hopefully don't melt down our LNBs. What can I add? Actually, last week I was in a holiday park. Just well, I was one of the islands on Holland, on Texel, and we had a nice weekend. And I spent at least half an hour watching the DATV Net via YouTube. Most of it are live, but yeah, our plans crossed with it, so I had to look. I didn't see all of it, but I got the requesting of Leon, and this made me think about this as a 818. Actually, there's also an 828 chip, but they are both narrow and wide bands, but wide band is 25 kc and narrow band is 15 kc. So yeah, and I don't think you can tamper with the filters there. The other one you mentioned, Leon, I don't know, but I also asked one of the locals who are doing on 70 centimeters wideband FM, basically broadcast quality FM, and they are pretty much all using the same concept, which is a board tuner for normal what is it, 100 meg broadcast, and they put some kind of converter in front of it, which you can think about it, which is, well, not too difficult because you have an IF of 100 megs, so you have a reasonable option to filter that out, the other part. But yeah, you still have to create something like a. I missed that, Martin. Was that for me?
Thanks for that.
Nope. Well, anyway. So yeah, I think conversion and put a commercial broadcast chip where there are, well, dozens of them. A lot of modules, cheap. I saw actually one for the Arduino for 70 cents, 70 euro cents. So it's ridiculous low price, and but you can also buy chips of 10 PO, 10 cents, euro cents only, and you can do only 5 or 6 components around it, and you have a broadcast receiver doing capabilities of headphone quality. So that must not be a big problem, but yeah, you need some kind of device conversion from whatever frequency you want to whatever frequency you want to put it down on a broadcast frequency, like 100 meg or something like that. And yeah, you have to be careful there where you put the IF, not to get it interfered with another broadcast, local broadcast going through the IF. I see I'm going a little bit down. Well, again, my Node-RED didn't work, and I understand you had also some issues with it, Martin, so I might have missed it. What is going on here? Everyone is trying to reach me. I don't know why. Okay. I see I have a very high FAC. Sorry. Put that back. I haven't done checking good enough, apparently. Owen, I think you're watching us. I did send you a question a few weeks ago. I haven't got any answer on that, so you might. That one worked fine. I worked on 5/6, which is not good at all. And now I see my stream is blocking up. This is not a good test. Hi. Microphone on to the next on the channel. Bert, take it over. Je zult het ongetwijfeld beter doen. PA3 AOD from Papa Alpha 3. X-ray over at Nijeveen. And by the way, Bert, look at the All-Star frequency we adapted, the node number we adapted in the Netherlands. From PA 3 Fox Bravo X-ray, off and clear. Passing it to you, Bert.
Yeah, Yeah, okay, thanks Benno. This is Papa Alpha 3 Alpha Oscar Delta. And, oh yeah, so put a little bit the noise down over here. Otherwise, okay, that's so better. Yeah, I hope that this broadcast a little better than yours, Benno. It was, as we called it in the Netherlands, wat stoterig. Audio and video. Yeah, I've never done something with that all net. That's completely new for me. Yeah, I see, of course, in the net that the people has worked with it, but I've never played with it. I don't know how that works, and no, maybe in the future I will do it. You never know. Yeah, about Leon. Yeah, he's already retired for 10 times, I believe. So I don't know when you will retire forever, Leon. But I think that will never happen. I've also played with some Philips, what do you call it, chips. The TAA, yeah, they work on 3.3 volts for the FM band, and it works rather good. And yeah, the programming is not that difficult. You can do it rather easily. Yeah, not so showing too much here. I got a guest over here. That's Papa Alpha 3 Golf Uniform Kilo. He is also built now in the mini tuner. And we did some tests, and yeah, his software is installed good on the PC, on his laptop, and also hardware is working fine. So he can introduce himself. Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm Albert, and I'm as old as Bert. Well, a few months younger. So in a few years' time, I'll retire as well. So maybe this is another nice hobby. Yeah. A lot of things I do are astronomy related, also a hobby. I have it's called a remote observatory in Germany at a very dark spot, and that's where I make images, and that's another hobby of mine. So enough to do in my spare time. So yeah.
Okay. There was no electronics at all in the show today in the net, so I will show you something anyway. This is for switching the 1 kilowatt amplifiers for HF2 and 70. It's switching for the water cooling systems. See, there's a small Raspberry Pi chip, the RP2040, and you can see it's it's a rather small one. And a couple of relays, and that's it's sending the signals to the valves. So for every frequency, then the water cooling is switched on or off. That's the part I'm busy with it. And for Benno, next week we have a contest. So I presume you will also be active then on the 70 and the 23 or so. I did also some tests today on the 10 gigahertz, and yeah, that worked this morning very well. It was more than 50 kilometers away, and that worked fine on 10 gig. Yesterday I placed a small dish in my tower. It was also like today. Yesterday was a perfect weather, and now also it's a perfect weather. Okay, to you, Ed, there in Sao Paulo, or nearby Sao Paulo. PY2, Radio Nancy, from the group, Papa Alpha 3 Alpha Oscar Delta.
Yeah, sorry about the sad movie. Hi guys, let me mute myself, otherwise I cannot speak correctly. Hello, nice to be here. Hello to Martin. Thanks for opening and coordinating the net again. Excellent video from Martin, as well from Leon, Zulu Sierra 1 Mike. Beno, everything was okay until I think you changed your FAQ. After you change your FAQ, you start freezing. But before that, it was perfect transmission. And Papa Alpha 3 Alpha Oscar Delta, Bert, nice to see you. Or nice to meet Albert. I think Papa Alpha 3 Golf Uniform Kilo, if I got that correctly. Welcome to the DATV Net, which happens every Sunday about this time. I couldn't let to notice you guys are very well suited. I mean, your your clothes are very nice. The only discrepancy is about the hair. One has lots of hair, the other one has no hair at all. Sorry about the joke, Bert. Well, the history here this week is I'm trying to give some maintenance with my VHF and UHF Yagis. I have both. Those are crossed Yagis. I mean, I have two polarizations, vertical and horizontal, and it seems the UHF, the 432 megahertz Yagi is not working properly. I do receive stations, but I believe it's weak. Signals are very weak, so I'm not sure where is the problem. If it's in the preamp, I have mast-mounted preamps. I'm not sure if it's the preamp or if it's the receiver. I do use SDR receivers here. The bottom line for that is that on 432 or the entire UHF band here, which comes from 430 up to 440, very difficult to get a signal. Nobody talking. There is no. Yeah, there are few repeaters, but nobody's using them. And I don't have any damn beacon there. So a beacon there is going to be very useful for me to test the reception. But there is none. So I was searching the internet, what I could do, try to get a beacon on 432. And the easiest way is in my drawer here, sitting in my drawer for, I don't know, a couple of years already, which is this handheld here. Let me just switch the camera. Yeah, that's the famous or infamous Quasheng UV key 5. I just found a firmware that actually does what I want. The firmware has capability of a CW beacon, and actually you can choose you can from 1.2 gigahertz up to 50 megahertz. You can choose any frequency. I I tried several frequencies. Yeah, here it is. I don't know if you can hear. Yeah, so you can set up several frequencies on that. I could not get any signal on 1.2 gigahertz, so I'm not sure if it will transmit something. But on 902, yeah, 903 megahertz, 222 megahertz. 144, 2 meters, obviously, and 50 megahertz. So the project is to install this guy somewhere. Not sure yet where, but gonna find some place. And use it as a beacon. Obviously, I had ordered a 12 volts adapter to eliminate the battery. And yeah, gonna install this as a beacon. I don't know how long it will last working, but at least I hope it can last until I finish and find what's wrong with my 432 megahertz antenna. Yeah, well, that's it, guys. Short. I mean, not many participants on the net today, so I'm sending back to Martin. Golf 8 Kilo Oscar Echo from Papa Yankee to Romeo November.
Yeah, thanks there, Ed. I meant to mention that if the streaming's being done on YouTube to the usual channel, then I'm not monitoring it, and I know Ed will be. So I meant to mention that on the first time round. So I think you're on Facebook and all other sort of places which I don't go on. So I hide away. So I have nothing to do with that. So if it's there, I am streaming it to my little YouTube channel as such, which is yep, it's working. I was going to check whether it's working. That's J8KOE. Hey Peter, good. I think I've got the canteens just produced me a cup of tea, so that's just behind me now. I have to go and pick it up. Yeah, it's just going to be a short net. And Benno, yeah, it's interesting. I know I was going to mention that, Benno. There's connected to the talkback over here is PE1 MSW, which I think is using one of your super fantastic interfaces, which his audio sounded absolutely superb. So your interface, you know, I can't say any more. That yeah, I used to chat to him on DMR, which was a nightmare. But since it's got one of your interfaces, it's absolutely perfect. I don't know what else I can actually add at the moment. You know, most of my sort of things have been playing around with the SRT repeater and a few little chats with Ohan, which and hoping he's going to get a little bit of time, and then the VK boys can start playing a bit more. Because they want to run super wide stuff. You know, 1 meg sort of is not enough. 2 megs is they'd like to run 4, but I think that's probably I don't know what the maximum is you can get away with a Pluto. But anyway, we'll see how we go. Right, I'm not sure who or if anybody is actually left. I don't know if Benno's still there, wants to have another go. I'm going to attempt to throw it over to you there, Benno, and see how we go. I should think you'll be up and running by now. So it's a test card and yours there, Benno, from G8KOE.
Yeah, I must do a proper over. And if I can find my face cam, there it is. I must do a proper over, Martin, because I can do so much better. Yeah, things went wrong when I started up today this check. Last 2 weeks I was very busy programming Arduinos. Sorry for that. I had actually done a lot of teaching, learning on the Arduinos, and I actually made a few boards, and I am in the middle of programming, putting something into a set of Arduinos for someone to use at a time measuring device for a horse riding competition. So yeah, I was very busy with that, and I did so much updates and things like that, so it might kind of messed, probably one of the updates messed my Node-RED again, which actually is the second time this year, and the first time it wasn't my update, but it was just the new year. The old version didn't work again anymore. I can't get it to work, and so today I found out that I had to install it again, and then I missed some of the settings. I was happy enough that it already worked a little bit. So I was working with 5/6 FAC, which is too much for people with low dishes, and I got some on that. So I had to correct there a little bit, and doing that during a transmission, yeah, that's never a good idea. Obviously my frame rate was not good, my encoder settings were not good, and so doing a better try now is the end result. Yeah, Michael did heard of my board buildings. For anyone who's interested in All-Star, I created one of these, which is basically the C media chip, which is on there, and it has USB input. Let me bring it a little bit more close. Very bad presentation, but the USB input, and CM190 chip, and some watchdog on there, and some putties to adjust some of the audio levels, and then you can connect it to a Baofeng or Guangsheng or any other very El Cheapo handy. The nice thing is you can't connect it to a Yaesu or an Icon, because they don't have the DC voltage on the audio output, which the cheaper ones have, which is not a good idea to put a headphone on, but at least it helps driving the squelch detection more easier. Otherwise, yeah, you have to modify a little bit. But one of these, and it connects between a Raspberry, where a server of your All-Star is running on. So I have still some boards left, and I have about 10 or something boards on spare parts lying around, so I can build another few boards. If anyone likes to start with All-Star, just connect me. It just works. It's simple enough, because All-Star itself is not very difficult, but there's a lot of information, and I think it's a very good high quality voice over internet, where it is in the end it's still voice on the internet, but you can create a radio node or a radio-less node. Obviously you cannot. You can also connect a loudspeaker and a microphone to this and a PTT button, and you have a radio-less node. It's easy enough, and you don't need a lot of parts. Actually, can I show this? Do I dare showing this? Because it's live. A old table microphone, where in the bottom you can see there is one of those boards, and there is a small loudspeaker in there, and there is a small amplification for the loudspeaker. So there's a complete radio-less node with a USB out going to a Raspberry, and that's my second radio-less node, because the first one is even smaller. I can show that live on the air. This is my radio-less node I built with a Alinco microphone, which is handy because it has DTMF in there. You can select, and it's completely autonomous. There is everything inside. There's a cable here which is just a power lead, and this is a complete radio-less node, wireless to my Wi-Fi or to my hotspot, my handy hotspot, so I can take it with me in my car and work from there as well without any problems. To make a gathering point after what Martin did in England, it just works. To make a meeting point for DATV or for ATV, we decided to adopt this number, which is there, and we adopted that number, and that's one of the nodes which is actually also next to me. And this node is basically a chamber of gathering for the DATV chat in the Netherlands. It's meant for the Dutch hams, and yeah, obviously you can talk other languages on it, but it's just a gathering point for the Dutch people. And so that's the general idea, to have a meeting point on voice over IP, and you take either a radio-less node like this one, or you take my radio node, you connect a Baofeng to it, and you have a complete radio hotspot. So that's another option. Whatever you prefer, whatever your likings. Actually, what I did is getting a box, which is just next to me, where this table microphone is connected to, and it has one of the it has a node number and it's running on the same Raspberry, where there is also 2 meter input on the radio. There is a 70 cents input on the radio, and there is a 23 cents input on the radio, and the 23 cents is actually connected to the local 23 cents repeater. So if you go into the repeater, on the local repeater, you can go through, if you type in the right DATMF code, you're back on this channel. So that's the general idea, and what else? There are so much options and so much possibilities, whatever you would like. So the next thing to build for you over there in use the Quansheng, not only for a CW beacon, which is a marvelous idea, by the way. I doubt it can do it multiple. I mean, it can do probably on one band, but it can do on all different bands where the Quansheng is working. But I know the Quansheng is not transmitting on 23 cents. At least there is no real power coming out there. There's only very, very little power coming I think, for that frequency. But the receiving part works, I believe. I've heard. Okay, well, that's basically all. Passing it to Bert, if he's still there. Goedemiddag, Golf Uniform Kilo. Ja, we hebben elkaar wel eens ontmoet, hè. En we gaan elkaar graag binnenkort een keer zien. En komende week, I should talk English on this net. Next weekend, I'm not sure I'm around. Because, what I expected, there are a lot of things going on at this month and the last month and the next month. And I have to work quite a lot on the weekends. And for the rest of the weekend, my girlfriend also wants to do some stuff with me, and I like to get it neat, leave it neat, but obviously there are some chores to do. Okay, well, that's basically all. 73s to everyone. Have a good week and see you later. And Owen, I hope you feel well and everything goes well with you and your family, especially the small one over there. And we miss you very much on the air. I haven't seen your face on the air for a long time. From Papa Alpha 3 Fox Bravo X-Ray, and passing it on to Bert Alpha Oscar Delta PA 3 Fox Bravo X-Ray. And so, do I have a test card? I think I have. There it is. Do I have some sound?
Yep, and we're back on air over here. Let's see. Benno. I will look at it. What it exactly is. That node network. I will look at. And what could be more important? Give me some points for the contest. Anyway, I just found my little experiment. Leon talked about it. You can see. This one goes then to the microcontroller, in my case to the Raspberry Pi, and I don't know if you can see it, what it is. It's a small chip. There's a TEA5767. That's a wideband receiver. That's a small one, and you can see, comparable to my hand. I think it's a small one, and you have only to program it. You can do I2C, and that's very easy to program. That's not that difficult. That's the only thing I have to show. Nothing more. I will have a local QSO over here further. Wish everybody have a nice day, nice week, and see you next time. And probably, sure, not next week because we have the contest over here in the Netherlands or in Europe. 73, and see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Put the microphone on. Very nice. Audio working? Yeah, audio is working. All right, great net, short but great as always. And yeah, Ben, well, those cheapo quachings. I mean, yeah, you can use you can just get one for each band. It's like $20 for each one, and put one in the frequency you want to work with as a beacon, and yeah, very, very good. Great, guys. I thank you very much for participating, and I couldn't let it go without saying hello to our viewers from YouTube. I have here Joe, 9 Hotel 1 Golf Tango. Hello, Joe. We have Gary, Zulu Sierra 6 Yankee India. Hi, Gary. Tobias, Delta Lima 7 Tango Juliet. Alfredo, tchau, Alfredo. Como vai você? Um abraço. Italy Kilo 1 Charlie Oscar Alpha. Also Nigel. Nigel Reeve. I think Nigel used to participate on the net. Long time I don't see Nigel here on the net. Hope everything is okay there, Nigel. And basically, that's it, guys. I appreciate for the net. 73 to all, and hope to see you all again next Sunday. Back to Martin, if no one else joined it. So Golf 8 Kilo Oscar Echo from Papa Yankee 2 Romeo November on the DATV Worldwide Net. Back to you, Martin.
Net. So perhaps I'll close the worldwide net and then play this video with regards to colour. I'll just briefly pop up at the end and say 7 trees. But thanks for those who popped up, and we'll see what happens next week.
By becoming a staff member via the YouTube membership program. Colour television is nothing new. It's been a mainstay around the world for decades, but remember, not everyone transitioned to colour broadcasting at the same time. The Americans were first in the 1950s, and we here in the UK began making the jump in 1967. And even as we reached the 1980s, there were still some territories bidding farewell to black and white, such as Greenland, Turkey, and Georgia. But for today's topic, we'll be looking at a country that falls somewhere in the middle in regards to the introduction of colour, and that country is our... Television was first properly launched by the British Broadcasting Corporation, or the BBC, here in the UK on the 2nd of November 1936. Despite limited audiences initially, the new medium quickly captivated millions across the country, but didn't really start becoming a household staple until the post-war economic boom of the 1950s. It was in this decade, almost 20 years since television's first debut, that all the way on the other side of the world, viewers in Australia would finally have access to the small screen, with television launching in Sydney on the 16th of September 1956. Presenter and later television executive Bruce Gyngell uttering the now famous address,
"Good evening and welcome to television."
It wouldn't be long after television arrived in Australia that the prospect of a colour service was first suggested. As early as 1962, various manufacturers of colour television equipment were heading down under to showcase their products. An interview with the then Prime Minister, Robert Menzies, was even captured with colour cameras. However, the prospect of picking up and starting a nationwide colour service would turn out not to be a no-brainer for the Australian government, as they had a few major hurdles standing in their way. The first of these obstacles was the decision as to which colour standard Australia should adopt. Without getting too technical, different countries adopted different standards. The Americans used NTSC, the Brits used PAL, the French used CCAM, and so on. Attempts had been made to establish a single international colour standard, but at the International Radio Consultative Committee's convention in Oslo in 1966, they claimed that it was impossible to recommend a single worldwide television system. This was mainly due to the fact that different systems were backed by different countries that had political affiliations with that particular system's producers. So, with one universal standard not an option, would the Australians choose NTSC, PAL, or CCAM? In the end, Postmaster General Alan Hulme would announce to the public on the 27th of February 1969 that the PAL standard would be the system to take Australia into colour. With the standard now set, television stations and various associated companies could now begin to prepare their transfer into colour, but there were still more barriers to knock down before the big moment would arrive. The process of converting your television service from black and white to colour is a lot more complicated than some may think. It involves the purchase of brand new equipment, conversion of studios to adapt to colour technology, or the building of brand new studios to meet said requirements. In 1972, the Australian Broadcasting Control Board, or ABCB for short, estimated that the cost of converting to colour for broadcasters would be around $116 million, which when adjusted for inflation is about 7 times that amount today in 2022. Then there's the production of colour-capable TV receivers, which naturally were going to be more expensive to the public than a monochrome set. However, nearby in Japan, cheap colour sets were being manufactured and could be imported into Australia. Although many were concerned about this, Australia had its own homegrown television manufacturing industry, with several thousands of jobs being created from it. If cheap Japanese colour sets were brought in, there were concerns that the home manufacturing of tellies could suffer, or even go belly up completely. The Australian government of the day rejected the Tariff Board's recommendation of 25% and instead set it to 35%, making the cost of importing cheaper Japanese sets rather heavy in an attempt to protect the domestic manufacturing side of the industry. So, after settling on a colour standard and working out the tariffs on importing colour sets, what was left standing in Australia's way of moving to colour? Well, the answer would turn out to be the Vietnam War. The near 20-year conflict is a notorious one in which the United States would suffer catastrophic losses, and one in which Australia would also suffer. Being an ally of the US, with obligations from the ANZUS Pact, the nation would end up committing nearly 60,000 personnel to Vietnam between 1962 and 1972. This commitment caused quite a strain on the Australian economy, so much so that for years, the government wouldn't commit to switching over to colour.
He said, frankly, the Australian economy, we can't afford to be in Vietnam and in colour, because the whole of the colour equipment had to be bought overseas, and the Australian economy couldn't afford it.
However, after Australia ended their involvement with the Vietnam War in 1972, it seemed now that the country could finally focus on converting their television services into the wonderful and exciting new world of colour. On the 15th of February the same year, Prime Minister William McMahon declared that all of Australia's major stations would start broadcasting in colour on March the 1st, 1975. And with that, the countdown to C-Day, as it was known, had begun. But for the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, or ABC, they were left to ponder, who on earth could bring us into this new colour world? Their answer would be a rather unusual but iconic Australian character. Every country has its own brand of hit programme, and in Australia, one of the most popular of the early 1970s was the Auntie Jack show. But who exactly is Auntie Jack? Well, imagine the exaggerated dames that you see in the realm of pantomime, give them a gold boxing glove and an Australian accent, and boom, you have Auntie Jack. Portrayed by Graham Bond, the cast also comprised of Rory O'Donoghue as Thin Arthur, John Derham as narrator Neville, Sandra McGregor as Flange Desire, and later on, Gary MacDonald as Kid Eager. This troupe of performers were the core of the programme, portraying numerous characters in skits and sketches, all of which have that signature Australian style of humour. If you've ever been or know anyone from Down Under, you should know what I'm talking about. Auntie Jack herself was known for her iconic attire of big blue velvet dress, workman's boots, and her signature boxing glove, as well as a staple of catchphrases, including calling everyone her little lovelies, and also a recurring threat, which she addressed to the audience at the end of every episode.
Remember, you better tune in next week to the show, because if you don't, I'll come round to your house and I'll rip your bloody arms off. And I will too.
Like any satirical comedy of the day, it does have a few moments that would definitely be frowned upon now, but Auntie Jack is definitely one of those shows you've got to see for yourself. However, throughout its original life on air, Auntie Jack always managed to find herself in some sort of controversy, even as far back as its original inception. Conceived first as a children's radio series, This iteration never made it to the airwaves, as many ABC executives found the lead character and many of the songs inappropriate for the intended young audience. After a TV pilot in 1971, ABC commissioned a short series, which would become the first season of The Auntie Jack Show, airing in late 1972. The programme became popular almost instantly, particularly amongst the younger viewers, though despite its success, it wasn't without its critics. Many in the papers derided the show, and ABC received several phone calls from viewers complaining about the level of violence, supposed bad language, and even the drag aspect of Auntie Jack herself. The programme in many ways was a trailblazer, being very on the nose and confrontational at a time when much of TV comedy was rather conservative, as indeed were many of the executives at the ABC. After Series 1 concluded, there were talks that the ABC were going to cancel the show altogether, due to the adverse reaction from their more vocal viewers. However, general reports of the day suggest that Auntie Jack and co. were saved by some of her younger fans. Not just regular young fans who were watching, but by some of the children of the ABC executives as well. So the inhabitants of Wollongong were granted another run of episodes, but all its run-ins with the top brass would eventually take its toll on the Auntie Jack creative team. Graham Bond, the man behind the titular character, was growing tired of his now nationally popular creation, and as such resolved to kill her off at the end of the second series, which went out in late 1973. Auntie Jack does indeed die from a heart attack of sorts, suffering shock from all the sex, nudity and language around her, in itself poking fun at the very same elements brought up by the disgruntled viewers and ABC executives. But Auntie Jack was far too popular to be fully laid to rest there. In December 1973, a new arrangement of the show's closing theme, Farewell Auntie Jack, was released as a 7-inch picture disc single. By early 1974, the song had managed to reach number 1 on the Australian charts, where it would stay for 3 weeks, becoming one of the first picture discs to do so in the world. Later that same year, an LP was released, titled Auntie Jack Sings Wollongong, which comprised of songs and skits inspired by or taken directly from the show. Selling well, if a chart-topping single and hit album wasn't enough to cement Auntie Jack's reputation, well, how about a national tour? So it's fair to say that by the end of 1974, Auntie Jack and her many quirky friends were recognisable to Australians all across the nation. But with no more series of the show in production, and with the conclusion of the tour, Auntie Jack would have one more key role to play before being laid to rest for good. You may be wondering why, out of all the ways in which ABC could have introduced full-time colour transmissions to a waiting and eager Australian public, why would they choose Auntie Jack to be the beacon for said transition? Well, all of the major networks were planning their schedules to be an all-night marathon going into the early hours of March the 1st. Movies, sporting events, even some raunchier content was all being planned to be shown in glorious colour to all the Australians who had forked out for a new colour set. ABC, recognising the enthusiasm for Auntie Jack amongst younger audiences, decided that the Queen of Wollongong herself would be the one to introduce colour to Australia. But before the big C-Day would arrive, some testing and demonstrating of how colour would change the TV landscape down under would have to be shown. Colour demonstrations for Australian audiences occurred as far back as 1967, long before a colour standard had been approved, and even before a set date for full-time colour transmission. TV stations all across the nation were setting up displays in shops and public shows to help enlighten audiences to the advantages of colour television. Despite most of the West moving to colour by the turn of the 70s, Australia had one considerable advantage, in that it was able to observe and iron out many of the defects or failings of earlier colour television receivers, such as the removal of flammable components and keeping a safe eye on any radiation levels emitted. As early as 1969, adverts for colour-compatible sets were appearing on Australian catalogues and magazines, and by the start of 1975, just a few months away from the big C-Day itself, several of the biggest television brands were advertising their latest sets to Australia, including Sony, Sharp, Sanyo, and Philips. The 1st of March 1975 had been designated as C-Day. However, instances of colour broadcasting appearing on the airwaves happened some time before this. The ABCB informed broadcasters that colour test patterns could be broadcast from the 7th of October 1974. These broadcasts would make up about 1 hour in a day's programming, airing in 15-minute segments. A few weeks later, on the 19th of October, the ABCB granted broadcasters the option to screen 4 hours of live colour content a week, with a cap of 2 hours per day. Finally, in the week leading up to the big moment, the ABCB ordered a complete colour blackout from the 24th to the 28th of February 1975, in order to create the biggest possible impact when colour truly arrived in Australian homes. For Auntie Jack, Thin Arthur and Kid Eager, it was now finally time for them to introduce colour. But of course, they do perform that task in a rather unique way. The 5-minute special starts out with a sombre tone. Auntie Jack lamenting the rampant advance of the colour monster and how her home of Wollongong is holding out as the last champion of monochrome. They observe the war front, quickly letting us know that the colour monster is approaching fast.
Hey, wait a minute! Wait a minute, the grass! Under the foundry! It's turning green! Erky Perky, it's here already!
As they prepare for the inevitable, Kid Eager joins the fray, dressed up as fellow Auntie Jack regular, Flange Desire. After some banter and jokes that definitely wouldn't have flown on British kids' TV...
Where are your tits? Oh, they must have dropped.
Ah, there they be! Ah, they be a fine pair of tits,
The colour alarm goes haywire, and sure enough, the colour begins leaking into Auntie Jack's house before eventually filling up the viewers' screens, bringing the characters, the ABC network, and Australia into the wonderful world of colour.
Oh, what a beautiful room! It's really quite nice being in colour, isn't it?
The sketch could have easily ended there, but we have a few more minutes of laughs to get through. Auntie Jack still appears in black and white, scaring the others with the threat of the new colour disease, green slime polkaditis. She saves Arthur with some colour remover, but it's not looking too good for Kid Eager, who quickly returns to his normal clown-like attire before turning green with some impressive colour-changing spots on his face. He then turns into a jelly, a symptom of the green slime polkaditis, and after citing him as lime-flavoured, Auntie Jack herself finally emerges in her full colour splendour.
Farewell, black and white.
With Arthur playing an adaptation of Farewell Auntie Jack, the title character, of course, must deliver a spin on her most famous catchphrase.
Don't you watch colour jokes on black and white television? Because if you do, I'm going to jump through your sets and rip your bloody pink arms off. And I will too.
Auntie Jack introduces colour is certainly a unique oddity, not just in Australian television, but television history in general. For ABC to choose a character that was popular with younger viewers, but one that caused controversy amongst conservative viewers and even their own higher-ups, to be the flagship leading the nation into colour, that was certainly a bold move. But what I like is that despite the momentous occasion, the creative team didn't sacrifice any of the humour or style that made Auntie Jack so popular. Indeed, you could argue that the character's firm resistance to colour in the beginning, making a lot of fuss over a seemingly simple transition, mocked the conservative attitudes of the day, those who resist change in such a dramatic fashion. The wiping effect used to allow colour to seep into the screen technically broke the ABCB's rules on when stations could begin broadcasting in colour. From midnight of March the 1st was the official time set, and despite having told ABC executives that the big moment would occur at midnight, the creative team decided that it would actually occur 30 seconds earlier, beating all other competition. Thus, Auntie Jack and the ABC network would begin their jump to colour half a minute before everyone else. And whilst other Australian networks made the jump at midnight, this Auntie Jack special is often heralded as the first programme to mark C-Day, as it technically started at 3 minutes to midnight on the 28th of February. As Auntie Jack gave way to a special edition of the music show Countdown, C-Day had finally arrived, and Australia was now, once and for all, in colour. Like with most countries that shifted to colour, there was some initial concern as to how the public would adjust. Would the take-up of colour sets happen quickly? Or would people be hesitant and hold off on the purchases for some months, or even years in some cases? Thankfully, any doubts the ABCB or even the government had were unfounded. The take-up of colour sets would be immense, and the results were staggering. In an annual report by the Federation of Australian Commercial Television Stations, or FACTS, after 18 months, colour TV penetration had reached a level that took Japan 5 years to achieve, the UK 7 years, and the United States 8 years. One factor that arguably contributed to this fast uptake was the 1976 Olympic Games, which were held in Montreal. Just as the 1956 Games in Melbourne had helped audiences warm to buying monochrome sets, the worldwide event repeated its effect 20 years later. Another factor that helped had arguably been the immense hype that Australian broadcasters and press had drummed up for the Big C-Day. Despite domestic colour sets not being as affordable from the gate as some would have liked, the excitement of viewing household favourites in colour, including sport coverage, seemed too good to resist for long.
Good morning, James Dibble in Sydney. Welcome to the ABC News in Colour.
With Australia now fully embracing colour, what became of Auntie Jack? Well, despite Graham Bond's reservations of the character, she would pop up again in 1975, this time via a series of specials broadcast under the title Wollongong the Brave. This show primarily focused on other characters featured in the Auntie Jack series, such as the meat lover Kev Kavanagh, the musical Farrelly Brothers, and Wollongong's sole and rather hopeless reporter, Norman Gunston. Some of you may recognise that name, as shortly after these specials aired, such was the popularity of the newsreader that he gained his very own programme. The Norman Gunston show proved to be a massive hit all across Australia and would run for several series throughout the 70s and 80s, including a revival series in the early 90s. Today, Auntie Jack is seen as an iconic Australian media figure, with the show itself now being praised as being revolutionary for the comedy market at the time it was aired. She still has a cult following, and if you're curious to check out the Auntie Jack show, I'd recommend watching the series using Amazon Prime Video. You can buy both series of the Auntie Jack show, plus the Wollongong the Brave specials, for little under £20. And trust me, that's far cheaper than buying the DVD.